I'm Eric Novak, and coming up on this report, we're going to take a look at two iterations of the first ever 2017 Hyundai Ioniq. It's not unusual to see a new automotive model come out with internal combustion engines that have different sizes to meet different needs or preferences. Well, if you can do that for a regular automotive model, why can't you do that for a green car as well? That's the thinking that Hyundai has put behind the launch of its first ever Ioniq. It is a vehicle with three different powertrain options, but none of them rely exclusively upon an internal combustion engine. The Ioniq will come equipped or available as a hybrid electric variant, a plug-in hybrid electric, and a full battery electric model. On this report, I'm going to take a look at two of those three, as the plug-in hybrid is not yet available for us to review, but I will be soon showing you the battery electric Ioniq. But right now, behind me is the hybrid electric. Let's take a look. While there may be three different powertrain variants, the exterior design of the Ioniq is largely the same. One of the things that is consistent across all three of us is the fact that it's quite aerodynamic. This is, as you can see, a very streamlined design. Now, we've talked before in other reviews about aerodynamics, and we know that the most aerodynamic shape available is basically a teardrop or a raindrop, and everything is compared against that. The unit of measurement they use is something called a coefficient of drag, and it's a number that they put out there. The Hyundai Ioniq has a 0.24 coefficient of drag. What does that mean? Well, it means that it really cuts through the air quite nicely. It's very slipstream, and it has the same coefficient of drag as does the current Toyota Prius, which is known as one of the most aerodynamic vehicles out there. Aside from that, with the hybrid version of the Ioniq, here on the Limited with Tech, which is the top-end package, there are 17-inch tires, 15 on the other brands. These are low rolling resistance tires, but with the hybrid, there's a silica blend as well for better traction, and also there's the hexagonal grille, which is on the hybrid for airflow. You'll see on the battery electric it doesn't need it, but it has the slotted front grille for airflow because of the internal combustion engine. Overall, though, it's a nice looking design and a good looking exterior on the new Ioniq. One design element with the new Ioniq that I wasn't too fond of happens here on the back end. As you can see, as it drops down, the rear view glass doesn't drop down very far, so it makes looking through the rear view mirror kind of difficult. So what they've done to compensate is they've added some additional glass just below the spoiler. What does that mean? It means that when you're looking through the rear view mirror, you've got the spoiler sort of in between your line of sight, and it's a bit of a distraction and frankly a little bit annoying. I'm not sure if they could have done it better, but this is one aspect of the design on the exterior that I'm not really fond of. Sitting inside the new Hyundai Ioniq Hybrid, it's a pretty good layout. Peter Schreier has always done a pretty good job ever since taking over at design the Hyundai interiors, and as a result, you've got a very driver-centric and user-friendly experience. The center stack, the GPS system, and the map, and the entertainment, the interface here is well laid out, easy to read. The buttons are easy to manage. Same with the HVAC controls. Things are positioned where they should be. The button for your heated seats and heated steering wheel are easy to access, not difficult to find. I don't like how a lot of times you have to go look for these things in certain makes and models I've driven. There's a host of information in your driver readout directly in front of me. You've got information on your driving conditions, whether you're in eco, charge, or power mode. You've got got your battery level indicator, you've got your fuel information, and also if you switch over into sport mode, you'll get a whole host of different readouts. The one thing that is tricky though when it comes to this is how you access sport mode. It took me a while to get used to. Normally you would have a button on Hyundais on the steering wheel for drive mode, but in this case you actually have to move over the gear shift over to sort of the sport mode, the clutchless gear shifting mode, and if you move over, it automatically goes into sport mode without having to shift gears. Only once you decide to actually move it manually up and down yourself into gears is when you get into that manual mode. But shifting it over is sport and back is your eco mode. That's kind of difficult to understand at first. Other user things that are good in here, just like for saving fuel economy, there's a driver only control for HVAC systems to reduce the overall charge. But overall, it's a pretty good and efficient layout inside the Ioniq Hybrid. So I know that a hybrid is really more about fuel economy than performance per se, but it still has to be fun. That's why they have two different drive modes. And I will say with this Ioniq, the two drive modes really are quite distinct. I'm driving in eco mode right now, and it's fine once you're up to cruising. It's certainly okay in city conditions where you don't have to worry about getting a lot of acceleration. But if you're trying to get onto a highway, if you're really trying to get a quick boost, it's really somewhat deficient, I'm going to have to say. But fortunately, it's pretty easy to switch over into sport mode. Like right now, I'm lagging going up a little bit of a hill. I want to put over into sport, and I can feel the instant extra amount of torque and horsepower. It's just one of those things that's really noticeable. It's not always noticeable in some of these vehicles, going into these different modes, but it certainly is distinctive and I think helpful to have a sport mode on this Ioniq. You can be in eco for most of the time, but there's times when you really just don't want to. I mentioned off the top, we look at two variations of the Ioniq on the support. We've looked at the hybrid electric. Now it's time to look at the full battery electric. On the exterior of the Ioniq Electric, when compared to the hybrid, there are some noticeable distinctions, but not too many. Perhaps one of the most notable, of course, is on the front end of the grille. With the hybrid, of course, having an internal combustion engine, you need intake of airflow, but with an electric having no engine, there is no need for that. So it is a solid black grille on front. The tires, they're 16-inch tires with the EV, and they're low rolling resistance tires. They're very energy efficient. These are Michelin tires that come with this one, and the caps are designed for maximum energy efficiency and airflow as well. And the other noticeable feature on the back end, apart from the electric badging, and it's a little bit, you'd have to look for it because we always assume it's there, but there are no exhaust pipes. If you have no exhaust coming from an engine, there's no need for an exhaust pipe. But those are the main external differences with the Ioniq Electric. Inside the Ioniq Electric, the overall layout is quite similar to the hybrid, but there are a couple of notable exceptions. How you select your drive method is different. We had a physical gear shifter or gear selector on the hybrid. There are electronic just buttons here. You've got park, drive, reverse. You have your drive modes. The drive mode used to be for sport mode. You had to push it over. In the hybrid, here it's back to a button, something that I think I'm more used to. And on the steering wheel, where you would normally have, say, paddle shifters in that type of a sport driving mode, what Hyundai's done, and I really like this, is they have sort of a regen selection mode. With electric vehicles, you want to have regenerative braking because, of course, the kinetic energy feeds back to the battery, extends the range. And with what they've done in the Ioniq, Just as you would shift up and down in gears, you can select the level of regen that you want to have. There's sort of a 3-step. You have low, medium, and high. And of course, the high giving the strongest stop while you release the gas. Again, it's almost like one pedal driving here. You only need the brake for the final few inches because it won't come to a full stop. But if you just want to be coasting and you want to have a low regen, you set it to that level as well. I do like that, again, because it offers you that choice. Now, the one thing that's important to note is if you're on light or medium regen, the rear brake light will not come on if you just release it, because that's one of the things you'll see on other vehicles. But if you have it on high regen, because the braking is quite sharp and the slowing down is quite dramatic, the rear lights, the brake lights do come on. But overall, I like some of the amendments to the inside of the Ioniq Electric. If you're considering the purchase of a battery electric vehicle, obviously you want to know about its range. How far can it go and how efficient is it? Well, the Hyundai Ioniq battery electric has a posted range of 200 kilometers or 124 miles. How does that compare to some of the other new EVs coming out, like the Chevy Bolt or the Tesla Model 3? Well, it's not the same range, but it does favor quite well compared to some of the original first generation EVs, such as the Nissan Leaf, the Mitsubishi i-MiEV, the Ford Focus Electric, the BMW i3, and even the Kia Soul EV, even though some of those vehicles are about to upgrade their batteries as well. This actually has the same range posted as the Volkswagen e-Golf, 200 kilometers, 124 miles. Now, one of the things that Hyundai wants to stress, though, is range is one thing, but efficiency is another. Just as we would compare vehicles for liters per 100 kilometers or miles per gallon, there's a certain consideration you can make with EVs as well. How far can you get with the energy you consume? The Hyundai Ioniq battery electric has an MPGE equivalent, or miles per gallon, with an electric equivalent of 136, a 136 MPGE. That also works out to 1.7 liters E per 100 kilometers. That's a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo in terms of E and trying to understand it, but the basic idea that Hyundai is trying to convey here is it's the most efficient battery electric design on the market. That's something to consider, because with a bigger battery to go further, you're going to increase the weight and reduce the efficiency overall, not to mention up the price. But overall, it's an efficient design, more than enough range for about 98% of commuters in North America, and that shouldn't be a problem of consideration whatsoever. With the launch of the all-new Ioniq, Hyundai is doing for a green car design what automakers have been doing for traditional cars for a long time, and that is offering choice. Hyundai understands, and the surveys continue to show, that consumers recognize the choices we make are having an impact on the environment, and we want to make a better choice, but it also has to fit with our overall needs and lifestyle. By offering a traditional hybrid electric, a plug-in hybrid electric, or a full battery electric, Hyundai understands and makes available to consumers wanting to make a greener choice a variety of options for both power, range, and efficiency that fits for them. I really like this triple combination, although I've only had the chance to review the first two, as the plug-in hybrid won't be available till later on this year. But overall, from what I've seen, they're on the right track, and I think they'll probably have a winner in the eyes of consumers with the launch of this new vehicle. That's it for this time. For EnviroDad.com, I'm Eric Novak. Thank you for watching. There's plenty of ways for you to keep connected with me, so check out some of my social media links, suggested videos, and I'd really love it if you subscribe to my YouTube channel.